really, yeah. So I think, but it speaks to the need. So anyway, if we go here, the community is really the heart of it. This was Maddie and I literally in Vermont last month saying, what is needed? This is it. You guys have been on it. So if we explore it, here's how you do it. So some of it's a little bit whatever, but on the discussion boards, we know you can just go up to create and you can create. I'm pretty sure even not as a host, you can create pretty much, I don't think you can go live, but I think you guys can do a post, an article, and a question or a poll. You can also invite people. Now we have an ambassador program. It's not like super obvious, but if you go into your profiles, I wonder if I can go into my profile, which I didn't fill out. Look at all these people that just showed up. Like, it was really funny because when we first launched, it was like me, and then it was pretty sad. Okay, so what, no, I didn't, Maddie, I need a badge.
You need to
I
get
want,
a badge,
I want my badge for,
inaugural member badge.
so we have, if you go into your profiles, you'll see inaugural member badge. And then ask you, if you invite people, if you invite 2 people, you get gifts. We're gonna do like meditation journals, canvas totes, we're, one-to-one with us, that's on top of anything else. And then discounts off of the foundation and soon to come longevity protocol. I'll talk a little bit about what the delay on that is. We just went ahead and launched this. And as Heather knows, and Leslie and people who have known my startup world, you got to launch, you got to crawl, walk, run, get something out there and improve. So you guys are really on the ground of this. And I think it's saying something. We've got these little spaces here. So right now there's an exercise and movement kind of thing. This is literally, I mean, obviously I wrote this and, so it means somebody joined. Sorry for that ding. I think I can shut it off, but maybe it's going to just keep dinging for this whole Zoom and we'll have to deal with it. But all these courses, so this and then the exercise, enhancing fertility. So all these things that we wrote, some of my favorites in the food and nutrition over here. So how to grocery shop. So I mean, I really thought this was good too, because the problem is we go when we're hungry and then and it's designed to actually make you buy all I'm not even going to apologize for the shitty processed food. It's literally designed for it. So that's Maddie. You can probably talk more about this one because you wrote it.
Yeah, it's good stuff. It's nice to know this ahead of time before you go shopping, just to understand the psychology behind how everything is set up, is just as Julie said, to get you to purchase more. So we often think these things are a matter of willpower, and often they're a matter of working with your subconscious and understanding what factors are at play even before you walk into a store. Once you're aware of them, you become more conscious of them, which allows you to then have free choice and free will. But if we're not aware of them, we're kind of on autopilot in there. So it should be a pretty empowering and informative course for you every time you go shopping.
Yeah. Recipe index. So some of these are just so good. And I can tell you that I've had some of these and I am really was like, wow, the right co-founder.
Our meetings are good.
Recipes, brings food. Really nice. How to balance your blood sugar. So I can't remember the statistics, but the majority of Americans actually over a certain age have pre-diabetes or diabetes. It's pretty significant. And obviously, if we've heard of the glucose goddess or anything like that, like balancing your glucose is pretty important. Some of the sprint training will help with this, but ultimately, all the stuff in here is going to be a really useful guide. So all these things, and we're growing our library. We were just talking today about adding some more stuff. It's probably, I would say, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to really super commit to a specific number, but once a week would be good.
Mhm.
And we're going to grow like a health coach community. And obviously you guys know we're going to expand out of Maine and Massachusetts for the lab work soon as well. Lot of little things. I keep going back to my friend Tom's company where it was like one crappy little office in San Francisco with IKEA furniture. And then he sold it last year for $3.9 billion.
I'd
And
love to hear you talk about that, Julie, because I don't think people realize, how things start, like One Medical and all that. Like people don't really think about.
And it's not even about the money, it's about like serving literally like hundreds of thousands of people who now have better experience at the doctors. you know, where you can sit on a couch talking to a doctor instead of on a table with like a paper thing on you. Like, I'll never forget my first appointment. I was wearing real clothes talking to a doctor. I was sitting on a chair and she was sitting on a chair. You know, a totally different experience. So very small things, like we're going to talk about this too, even with the lab work and everything, what we're doing. But I just love the library here, but you know, the discussion board is really going to be where it's at. And I did this picture. They should pay us to be models, okay? Because every single day there's a picture from my community about us working on a roof deck, and I'm like, where's my model fee? Sprint training. But obviously you guys know also the website as well, but you can go on to members and you can see, I mean, literally the other day it was like 3 people. So I am just so, you know, and there's people, I think there's more people who just haven't signed up yet, but have the, you know, either paid or whatever. But so, and obviously I don't want it to be like a not private thing, so I'm not going to go into anybody's profile, but you can get a feed and you can kind of see what's going on. And you actually have the ability to sort of personalize this. And a lot of that is going to be, you know, you can see it in your welcome. It's going to take a while to get through because this community is really robust. It took Maddy and I about a week to figure out what the heck was going on. And we had tried out a lot of different communities and we really loved this one the most because it integrated everything. And it also allowed us, you know, to just be able to hook it into the site and, you know, give links to people who are going into the site. But that's it. That's what I was going to talk about with the site, with the member. I mean, I will just do this really quickly because I can't help myself, even though Maddie's like, this was not on the agenda.
We're going, it's okay. We can go rogue.
The rogue a little bit is obviously you guys know the site and like, you know, the other stuff on here with the protocols and everything. And if you ever, you know, are like, oh man, I forgot how to get into the community, it's right up here on the top right of the site too. And if you click into it, it will either prompt you for a sign up, or if you haven't signed up, it'll prompt you to pay and, you know, to log in. So that's sort of it. And then you guys know what we're doing is, I do want to talk about this a little bit, the preconception to longevity, because obviously Maddy and I are addressing it from slightly different points of view. And I think we can jump into the one question from somebody about this one thing with hormones and PCOS, because it's sort of related and I can go back to the community here. So we had one question. What was the question, Maddy? I'm going to get it. So, eating. So I just want to jump into that right now, because then we can just sort of do that and then have you guys have your questions. And I also wanted to talk more about blood sugar and then creating a healthy home, which obviously, of course, is going to come up for that because everyone wants it.
Mm-hmm.
But the question that we had was, if somebody has hormonal imbalance and PCOS, is a carnivorous diet okay? I wanted to address this question because Maddy and I were going to put it on the table. I've been a vegetarian or a vegan or pescatarian since I was 12, and I'm going to be 51 next month. So that's a really long time of being like a long time to be like not eating meat. And however, Maddy eats meat. Neither one of us has any problem with each other's diet. And it comes down to your own physiology, which a lot of it's going to come up with your blood work, right? So again, when you're running the labs, but Maddy, I know you speak to this in a different way, but as we get older, and especially perimenopause and menopause, when we have a lot of heat in our body, I mean, you do if you have hormonal imbalance, but if you don't, you don't. So I don't anymore. But if you do, hot food and red meat can create more vasomotor symptoms, which is cold sweats, you know, at night, hot flashes. They're both vasomotor symptoms. It literally means like it's a deregulated system for the vascular. That's what's happening as you're getting older. And so as your estrogen drops, that's going to have that issue. So as people get older, the hormonal balance, yeah, I mean, a pegan, which is fish and vegan diet, not a lot of dairy. Yes, eat meat, but maybe not as much, right? That kind of thing. And then Maddy can talk about it from like the cool perspective.
Yeah, more traditional Chinese medicine nutrition talks about the different energetics of food. And it's a really beautiful way to understand food and how it affects your body. And it becomes really intuitive once you kind of get the grasp of it. It's understanding that all foods have different temperatures and they have different properties that affect your energy differently. So something like red meat, energetically, it's very hot. So when you eat it, it can create symptoms of heat. For people who have like hypothyroid conditions, typically they're really cold, their hands and feet are really cold. Red meat for something like them is actually quite beneficial, especially if you're like below 30. Perfect. If you're experiencing more symptoms of perimenopause and menopause, where you're experiencing hot flashes and maybe night sweats, red meat, maybe not the best choice for you because it's pushing you further in that direction. We can also think about, I previously lived in Montana, very cold climate. It snows in May. So for people there, staying warm, red meat was a really big part of their diet. You know, that's a population that really relies especially on game meat. You know, people go hunting more often. There's a reason for that. Their bodies are cold. They're craving more warmer, energetic foods. People who are living more on the equator, there's a reason why they rely on fish. You know, not just only in the proximity to the ocean and the fish, but also fish is very cooling. So when we start to tap into the energy of a place and the energy of what's going on in your body, you start to really, it becomes very intuitive, like, oh, that really checks out. You know, it kind of makes sense that I don't particularly like really want to eat a burger that comes off the grill when it was today like 100 degrees outside and really humid. Like I'm actually craving watermelon, which is like very cooling for our systems and very hydrating. So when we start to tap in, yes, like I fully believe in studies and I think they're really important, but also our intuition comes back
Yeah.
online when we start to understand what it means a little bit more.
And I do, and I think too, like, I think it was Elise, right? Like her very specific question is like, I don't think there's any right or wrong. I mean, first of all, you have to understand your own physiology, which
Mhm.
obviously the lab work will do, but then you start to get to know, like, just even with my own story that I decided to experiment with being totally vegan for 3 months, probably under the influence of my brother. As some people know my brother, I was a total vegan. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna do that. And then my omega-3 levels shot so down, but I knew it in advance. I was like, oh wow, I'm feeling really fatigued and what's going on. And it was in the winter and I was not feeling great. And I blamed it on the winter. But it was because I wasn't eating, I didn't even take a supplement. I just literally dropped it completely from my diet. And my body told me. And I'm really in tune with it now. And so I just started eating fish again, right? No big deal. I just started eating fish again. Obviously, fish that was not full of lots of pesticides and toxins. We are going to go into that too. Like I think there's going to be I would love to see courses, especially on that too, because I've gone grocery shopping with Maddie, and of course, how to grocery shop is in there. But I'll pick things I think I'm pretty good, and I'll pick things out, and she's like, no. And then even so I mean just everything, just like paying attention, because even if you think you're, whatever you're eating, if it's processed food, no matter what, that's going to jack with your hormones. So I think we can, talk with that too. And then sort of related, because PCOS and endometriosis, adenomyosis, even fibroids, all these things that go wrong with a woman's body, and we think of them as like age related, like PCOS is in the 30s, but a woman in her 50s would have something else, or fibroids, but they're all kind of related in Chinese medicine. It's stagnant energy. So I find it's really interesting that the hormonal stuff, I personally, the dairy stuff was the biggest trigger for me for my fibroids and cortisol, right? So it's a shame. I was bummed out. I really like wine and cheese, but I kind of had to stop doing the cheese part. And just, I mean, you have to listen to your body and really, really pay attention to it. You actually know, like when you're eating something, you certainly know the next day when that feeling of being sluggish is not normal. So something's going on. Tap in. And I think that was one thing. I know we're already at 8:23. I mean, we can go a little bit, but the other thing that I wanted to talk about was balancing blood sugar, because Maddie's got the course, but just a little briefing.
Yeah, of course. This is,
Want
if
me to
we're
go
gonna
into
do,
it?
Yeah, we absolutely, if you want to go even in like,
Woo!
if you want to go even in like the overview section, because that's kind of like the intro.
There's a lot getting in here.
I
Oh, yeah,
know sometimes
that's
it
how I
looks like
click. I just have to click. Oh, that's good to know. Like,
it is
understand.
good to know. Yeah, that overview, it goes into like the initial,
You guys see it? Should I move the Zoom thing over here?
I can see it okay, actually.
Okay, good.
So balancing your blood sugar, if you're going to do anything for your hormonal health, this is it. If you're going to do anything for your longevity, if you're going to do anything to improve any kind of health in your body, balancing your blood sugar is absolutely where you have to begin, because all of your hormones are really going to regulate based off your blood sugar. Our blood sugar is what provides our overall stability in our body, not only metabolically, which is what we think of first, and like preventing diabetes and insulin resistance, but it's really, really important for hormones because insulin itself is a hormone, and we tend to forget that. So when we have foundational level balanced blood sugar, we have better cortisol stress response. When we have things like protein and fiber in our systems, our cortisol gets blunted a little bit. It has something that keeps it more grounded. Things like root vegetables are fantastic for regulating cortisol and bringing them. I mean, think about like, this is why I love energetics of food. Think about like a root vegetable that roots itself into the ground. That's what it's doing energetically in your body. So if you have root vegetables, especially in the afternoon when cortisol tends to creep up, we're getting a grounded sense in the body physiologically and energetically. We also have better thyroid function, which is where our body's whole metabolic temperature is really set. So if we're having difficulty losing weight, if we're feeling really cold, if we're feeling really sluggish, we need balanced blood sugar for our thyroid to really show up. And then our sex hormones can balance. So our sex hormones, like our estrogen, our progesterone, our PCOS, our endometriosis, our cycles, perimenopause, none of that can be regulated unless our blood sugar is balanced, because your sex hormones are they're the first thing to kind of go. Think about like an athlete that's training, if they overtrain, their cycle goes first. That's the first thing they're going to notice as a symptom. They're the first thing the body can kind of drop off because it's not necessarily necessary for survival. Having a cycle where you're building that lining every month, it's a want to have, but it's not necessarily a need to have for survival. So if we want to get to that place where we have balanced hormones, we have to start at the foundation. If we go to the next part of that chapter, that understanding.
Look, did you see what I did? I'm learning too how to get out of this.
We're learning. We're all learning together.
I know, well, this is like a Rolls Royce of the community boards, right? So Leslie, I'll let you know what it is, but I'm glad we did it because we had another community board that we first tried early in July. We've had to do everything twice because that's what it's like to do startup. It's just crazy. We had to literally take all of our courses and pull them off of one place and put on this. Like, I'm so happy that you guys are on the, beginning days with us. And I mean, I've done this before so many times with startups that I don't even react. But then it's funny seeing Maddy react, even though she doesn't really, you're always calm, but you definitely are like, why do we have to do it twice?
Everything twice. But also, like, it is what it is. What are we going to do?
But then it spikes our blood glucose when it's like, oh no, like, why did this thing happen?
I know.
Like my cortisol going up.
Yeah, so this graph just shows, it's just kind of helpful to see, especially because there's a lot of apps out there right now, like Levels, that really, which is a woman-run company, but they promote like very stable blood sugar. Yeah. Like in all their graphics, they basically don't want the needle to move at all. In my opinion, that's not a representation of what a healthy blood sugar response is. And I'm finding it actually exceptionally problematic that this is what they're promoting, because it's telling people that they really shouldn't eat carbohydrates. And we need carbohydrates to function. Carbs are not the enemy. They just have to be eaten in a way that best supports our body. So,
well, or not to interrupt, but from an exercise science perspective, you have to have carbs in order to really burn the fuel. And if you don't, you can tire out. So if you notice that if you eat a lot of carbs, but then you do like a bunch of sprint interval training, you might not actually see the weight gain, right? So a lot of the times it's just this pairing of just doing that. And then I don't know, but I agree with you. I mean, I invested in Levels, so yay, that and the other one. And then in the past 6 months, I was like, oh, some of the science is just wrong, right? And we're actually supposed to stress our body a little bit. We're supposed to spike our cortisol, but then regulate it. Like we're actually designed to do that.
Yeah,
I think,
absolutely.
yeah,
You
but we're
can't
not supposed to stress
be
ourselves out completely,
right.
like my fasting. I think all of you guys know at this point that I was doing this fasting thing from 8 p.m. until sometimes, I mean, it was like a badge of honor. I'm like, oh, I made it until 2 p.m. Oh, but by that time I was hangry. I was probably yelling at people on the street, like just not my best self. And my heart, I mean, my cholesterol spiked, a whole bunch of things that I couldn't figure out what the heck was going on. And then when I met Maddy, she was like, huh, you think you might want to stop trying the fast thing? And I started eating like a little bit at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then 3 hours later, and all of my heart biomarkers went down in a positive way within 6 weeks. And it was incredible. And also my mood was better, right? So it just everything. Oh, I had more energy. You imagine like with eating a little bit that I could actually have some energy walking around. Great. We shouldn't stress
Absolutely.
ourselves out, but we are meant to do this. I love this.
Yeah, our blood sugar is meant to go up and down within a range, of course. But if you're having what's normal is to wake up in the morning and your blood sugar is low. You've been fasting overnight naturally when you sleep. And by the way, when you're sleeping, your body is maintaining stable blood sugar to the best of its abilities. So a lot of times people experience insomnia and restlessness and even like anxiety in the middle of the night. And that is often a blood sugar crash. If you're not eating enough during the day, or sometimes my patients, I'll have them take like a spoonful of coconut oil or like a nut butter before they go to bed to keep like something that's really high in fat. It's not going to mess with your insulin. It's going to keep really stable blood sugar overnight. So if you have restless sleep, you can try that, see if it aids in having like more restful sleep at night. But when we wake up in the mornings, our blood sugar is low. It's a signal for our body to have breakfast. If we choose to fast in the morning and we don't eat, our blood sugar is low. Your body has mechanisms to raise it regardless. So if you have a stressful morning, your cortisol is going to raise, your blood sugar is going to raise with it, with or without you eating. If you are running in a really low blood sugar state and your body needs to raise that blood sugar, it's going to take it from your liver or your muscles. And this is when we start to see where fasting can really be a detriment because our body is now pulling out glucose stores from our muscle tissue, and we need that muscle in order to protect us. So now we're taking away from our muscle mass for what? We're adding stress onto the body. And there's some studies that show that more of a fasting state may be beneficial for people who are postmenopausal. But now more research is coming out that may not be true, that providing stability is actually more important. And the only real benefit that intermittent fasting was giving people was a caloric deficit, which you
Well,
can
and
easily obtain in a normal eating window.
yeah. And then also we believe, and the science is trending this way, that women are, I mean, we're different than men. Wow, imagine. And so men doing this intermittent fasting, it can actually be really beneficial, but our bodies are kind of designed to be a little bit more like going with the flow, like a river, like a little
Yeah,
river.
women's bodies need a lot more nurturing, they need a lot more stability. Our bodies give life. I mean, we need to treat it with the most amount of stability and grace, and putting ourselves into these situations where, like I'm going to make it to 2 and I'm just not going to eat. And then I'm going to work out and having not eaten and just keep pulling and pulling and pulling from our reserves. And then we crash.
Yeah.
And, men have a lot more internal reserves that they can rely on. I mean, they have a lot of testosterone. You can't doubt that hormone for the amount of power and muscle that they have. Women aren't like that. Women need a lot of softness and a lot of nurturing in order for them to really thrive.
And I think that also speaks to the point of Maddy, and I both really we continue to research the latest science, and, just a little tiny offset thing, why the longevity protocol, which tons of people are asking us for, and what I morally want for me, because I'm obsessed with my real age and I'm obsessed with it. But we're always looking at the latest research, the latest tests, the latest everything that's coming out. And there are some basic things like exercise science hasn't really changed since when I went to college and, minored in it. But, there are essentially really oversimplification, 3 muscle fiber types, and that's it. It's never going to be more. We're human beings. That's the way it is, right? There's not ever going to be more muscles or more bones in our body than that. I mean, at least for the foreseeable future. But, because who knows what's going to happen in the, sci-fi alien, hybrid thing. But as far as the future that we're in is probably unlikely that that's going to change. And so the science there for like how to, how your blood glucose levels are, or boosting metabolism with sprint training, for example, those are, really legitimate science. But there are other things that are coming out, especially like how exactly are we going to, extend our lifespan and our health span. That, some of that, there's new stuff coming out every day, but we're tracking it. Maddy and I are tracking it. I think I might have I'm going to stop sharing because I have a chat and I'm just going to see. Maddy, the one thing that, okay, yeah.
Oh no, it's just a
Oh, that's so nice. I just want to make sure that I was like, but I do want to get to the balance, the house thing, right? Because I think this is actually a really big deal. And Heather, you know this about me too, like that I'm kind of obsessed with feng shui. Like when I walk into rooms, if I'm at a conference or anything, or if I go to dinner, I need to make sure that the environment is right. And, a healthy home also includes toxins, and not, or doesn't include toxins, right? Anyway, Maddy, I'm going to let you go with that. Although I have to say that I'm just going to point out that tonight, before I started this, I was all in like a little bit of a probably high cortisol state, trying to make sure 2 candles were lit, because from a feng shui perspective, if just one's lit, it's just one lonely person. And if you want to have a relationship or a healthy relationship, it should be pairs. 2 candles. Okay? Just saying.
I mean, I will also say Julie was in my office yesterday and made me take out a fake plant because it was in my money corner, and she was like, absolutely not. You have to get it out of here.
Yeah,
and now
I
it's
made her
no
do it. She did. I was shocked. Well, first of all, I was like, that
Julie was horrified.
really nice. It's a really nice looking plant. And it's like too nice, right? So it's just I'm going up looking at it. I was like horrified that this thing, listen, in the 1% chance that this stuff is true,
We know it's
but you
true.
feel it, right? It's like a toxic, obviously real plants are giving life and, purifying the air, and they look nice and they smell nice and it's good. So yeah.
It was
And my
amazing.
non-toxic candles,
Mhm.
because we can get into that too, how bad candles are when they are having
Yeah, absolutely.
chemicals.
Yeah, I broke this down. We're going to have a formal course on this, but I wanted to cover like 3 different rooms and a couple things that I know, can do for each room that you can learn about like today that you can implement. So first and foremost, the kitchen, where I like to spend a lot of my time. So 3 suggestions here. We all know, I think at this point, how plastic can be really detrimental for our overall health. Plastic is really tough because it acts like estrogen. And it gets really easily absorbed by certain foods, especially when it's heated. And I think a lot of people don't think about this, but especially when it's a fatty food, fat can easily take on the packaging that it's in or a container that it's in. So if we're heating up a fatty food in a plastic container, you're really absorbing a lot of those plastics, a lot of the BPA that's in the Tupperware containers, and it just acts like an estrogen mimicker. So it's going to make our own estrogen less bioavailable. This is really important for conditions like, especially PCOS, where we have more of like a higher testosterone state, but also perimenopause, where our own estrogen isn't necessarily as bioavailable. You want to be doing everything you can in order to increase the bioavailability of your own hormones. So taking plastic out of your kitchen is super important. People ask me this a lot. It is okay to store like dry, cold things. Like an example of this is if you buy like cereal, like a healthy cereal of some kind, or like a granola, that is something that can be stored in a plastic. If you have that around and you're like, oh my God, I don't have glass, it's okay. It's more of the foods that you eat that are warm or more like whole food products that you really want to make sure they're stored in glass. Second thing here, a lot of people, I do a lot of heavy metal testing, a lot, and almost every single one that I've run comes up high in aluminum for, I would say, like 99% of people. And aluminum, super, super common. It's used obviously in like cans, which I don't see that necessarily as big of a contributor to the aluminum factor. It's more putting aluminum foil when you're grilling or on baking sheets. So if you're going to like roast something in the oven, you can buy non-bleached parchment paper and put it on top of there. Or they make like Caraway makes like a pretty good line of pans that you can put in the oven that are non-toxic, or even use something like a cast iron in the oven as well. So no aluminum with heat, ideally. Does that make sense?
Very European, very French.
Yes, we love that. And then for cooking as well, something that a lot of people don't think of too is when you are cooking on the stovetop, if it's anything over like a medium heat, just turn on the vent, even if it's not smoking. Even that like small particulate matter that comes with like browning foods a little bit, it's really easily absorbed into our lungs as small particulate matter, and it can be a source of oxidative stress. So when we think about just like inhaling smoke, we know that like over time in our lungs, we have to get a lot of antioxidants to fight off things like that. So it's something as simple as just turning on that overhead stove is super easy. So those are like the three takeaways I have for the kitchen specifically. And then we'll move on to the bathroom if everyone is ready to move on.
Ready?
Yes. So a couple takeaways here. As Julie already mentioned, like with the candles, fragrance is not your friend. It is so sad because things smell so nice, but unfortunately, they can really mess with our hormones. And it's included in the most bizarre things now. Like it's in things that seem so unnecessary to have a smell, like your face wash. I just don't understand how we've gotten here. So really just checking even the products that have things listed as like organic sometimes still include fragrance. So you can still have an organic fragrance, and fragrance is just kind of like a question mark. It's a category of things, but we don't know like where it's derived from, what it means. And even if it is organic, my preference is always that you're using things that are fragrance free. So like deodorants, I'm always asking people to go fragrance free in those, non-aluminum if possible. Taking a look at perfumes only on special occasions, if at all, not using candles that are scented unless it's essential oils. You want to be really, especially those everyday things that you're using, you want to be really careful about.
And I do think like eventually we can do a list or even like go through our own houses. I think that might be really fun to see because anybody who knows me, like I do my perfume and I do my things and it's like, and I also order it from France that's like distilled in an organic way and it's ridiculous expensive. But so it's like make your choice, make a choice. It's either that or I can do my Chanel Allure, which has got a lot of toxins in it, right? So you make choices. Nobody's going to be perfect. I mean, Maddie's come to my house plenty of times and there's no perfection here, right? It would be almost impossible, but there are things, you just make a conscious effort every day. And over time, you just get used to like, even today, it's like, what do I clean my floors with? Vinegar, right? Vinegar. Diluted vinegar, not straight up, it's kind of just from a hook, but like, just because it's not toxic, but even that, so it's like, you have to be careful. It's like, where's it coming from? What is it doing? Like what? So all the looking at the labels, bathrooms are the worst. It's our products, but also things like Clorox, bleach for the toilet. I mean, this is not, we already know it's not healthy. Like it's obvious. And it smells the whole, house up for 3 days. And like my dog, if I do something like that, he'll start sneezing and his eyes will run. That's a pretty good indication that it's toxic and terrible. So, I just don't do it anymore.
Yeah, of course. And another helpful thing is too, like kind of like with the kitchen that you turn on the stovetop fan, when you're showering, just turn on the vent in your bathroom automatically. in most countries that aren't as developed, their bathrooms are considered like their wet rooms. And the walls are made out of things that they don't have as much insulation in those rooms. And the way our homes are constructed, I mean, mold can grow so easily. And as someone who has had issues with mold, it's really not fun to deal with. So if you're in a bathroom, like if you can keep the door at least cracked open, do so that there's not like a whole lot of condensation in there. Turn the fan on, you want to keep air flowing, and that's really, really important. But yeah, Julie's absolutely right. The personal care products are really important. The things you're exposing yourself to every day, and the cleaning products can be like really, really challenging.
Yeah.
So eventually on that, when we do create this course, we'll create a list of brands that we like and being able to buy from, because I think that tends to be really helpful for people.
Even
But
makeup, everything, the
yeah,
whole,
absolutely.
yeah.
And then I wanted to go through just like a couple items for the bedroom. And again, this will be more comprehensive, but air filters are really important just for I love people to have like a few air filters in their house, especially if they're not able to open their windows frequently. But even keeping, if you can just need to buy one, keeping an air filter in your bedroom and just having it run all the time. You don't have to turn it off. And especially during the day, if you do suspect that you have stagnant air in your house, keep your air filter on and close the door to your bedroom. That way, when you're going to bed, you're breathing really clean air. It's been circulating all day, being filtered all day. Change the filter regularly. And that way, when you're sleeping, it's like ideally 8 hours. I think for Julie and I, that's a little bit of an unfamiliar concept at this moment, but you're getting enough sleep and you're also getting really clean air while you're sleeping. Like, what a gift to give to your body, especially when it's supposed to be in this parasympathetic rest and digest. Our lymphatic system and our brain is detoxing during that time. So you're giving your body a really good opportunity to be able to detox in your sleep. Speaking of that as well, another great thing to do is just to limit your EMF exposure in your bedroom. And I know this is hard because I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I really like to scroll on Instagram before I go to bed. And being able to just turn your phone on airplane mode. I have this shortcut on my phone that it turns a red light on before I go to bed. So I'm not looking at a screen that has the fluorescent lights. It's more of a red light. It's easier on your eyes and your melatonin production. So little hacks like that, turning the EMFs off though is really important when you sleep. Again, so your body has a chance to fully detox away from screens and away from electromagnetic radiation.
No TVs in the bedroom, ideally.
TVs in the bedroom, that's important. No Wi-Fi routers for sure.
Are we doing mattresses? Are we gonna go there?
It would definitely be in the course, but the long story short is a lot of mattresses are made with pesticides, and if you can afford a clean mattress, that would be awesome because you are sleeping on it for 8
Do
hours.
our recommendations too. Yeah.
Yeah,
And some of it's an investment, right? So it's you make the choice on what you want to do and what you don't want to do. You could just hit up one room and be like, the bedroom's the most important. I'm going to do this. And
yeah. None of these changes have to happen immediately. Like we've all lived in environments that were not so great for our overall health, and we're all sitting here today. So it's things that can happen slowly over time. I tell my patients all the time, I'm like, when you run out of a product, buy a new one. You don't need to go out and buy everything today, but as things start to run out, start to notice like, oh, this mattress isn't really feeling good so anymore. That's when you have an opportunity to make a different choice.
yeah. And we've done
Those are
good.
my suggestions for a cleaner house, but there will be more comprehensive suggestions in our course as well.
Yeah, and I think also, give us feedback on what you want to see. It's like, I've been doing feng shui courses for like the past 10 years, and I come into a house and just make sure that everything is, I mean, I have been known to go into a hotel rooms and put towels over the mirrors, like whatever, like all the stuff that I do. But there are a lot of little things that sometimes it's just good design, right? Like, when you walk into a room and it feels good and it's comfortable and it like makes you want to sit down and it invites you in. And then there's the things that make you go, oh, I don't know. Like even Maddie and I the other day, we went up to my lounge and it smelled like bleach and something else. And we were both like, oh, right. So you start getting like really sensitive about everything. And I guess it's time to go somewhere else because of that smell or disruptions or whatever's going on, that you want to just try to, like, for me, I'm like naturally a little bit in a high cortisol state because I'm so energetic as a person. but it means that can get super sensitive to noise and things. So anybody who knows me knows that like I make my house like a cave, right? I'm like literally facing Newbury Street in Boston, which could not be louder, but you know, it's like triple pane windows, and I've done so many things in here to make it so it's quiet and peaceful and feels like, you know, really comforting, right? So that also is something for your health and your life balance, right? Trying to like de-stress, take the tough day away from you and go somewhere that makes you feel totally safe. Like all of these things, it combines. It is all wellness.
Of course. I'm looking forward to your feng shui course, Julie. I think
I know. Well, okay, I'm going to do it. And so then I think you guys should let us know everything, any other courses. And because we're just getting started. I mean, you guys are really on the ground with this, and it's like you're the inaugural members. So your feedback is really important. And I want to do, so this one was obviously, I mean, what we launched on Sunday and it's Thursday. So I wanted to just, because there were so many people coming on so quickly, that Maddy and I were like, okay, that's great. But also trying to explain, you know, how to navigate around the community, or even so kind of what we're doing, and even talking about the website and what the heck is the purpose. And obviously this community is so important because it doesn't exist. Matt, I don't know if you wanted to share it, because we're going to have another video about, some people were asking why, because we have our story, but we didn't really go into some of it. But like there really wasn't anything out there that would do biomarker testing and then have a community. And I mean, anybody who knows me knows that I've been like biohacking for, I don't know, 20 years at this point, like doing all sorts of crazy stuff. And I'd get labs run and then just like send a PDF, right? That's with nobody even talking to me about it. So then I like, you know, Dr. Google myself, which could be really dangerous. And then I did this other thing back in last year. I'm not going to name the company, but some people know who it is. And it's like an AI translated all my biomarkers. And then it was inaccurate. And then they were recommending things like you should eat wild boar. And I was like, oh, no, I'm not going to do that because I'm vegetarian. And then also one was you should try working out at least once a week. And I was like, oh no, oh, I do. Right. So it was not accurate. And then I go to Maddy and she's like, maybe you should stop fasting. And that was actually the reason that the markers were. So the difference between a functional medicine provider like Maddy, and not to slam on doctors, but they don't actually learn diet, nutrition, or stress in medical school. They don't. And I think if you guys know me personally, you know that I have a lot of friends who are like pretty powerhouse doctors, and they know very well that I slam on them for things like they'll eat terrible, terrible foods like in front of me. And I'm like, I'm just not going to listen to you with diet. You didn't take a single course in med school. I don't care if you went to Harvard. That's not what they learn. And so, you know, and they usually learn one thing, right? So it's not integrative. You're like a specialist in heart or a specialist in something, but not the full body and how it's integrated. And even with Maddy, when we met and she's looking at everything, like, what are your relationships like? What's your job like? What is your environment like? What's all these things that actually do factor? How much are you sleeping? How stressed are you? And I was like, whoa, no doctor has asked me that in a long time. And it's all related. So that's kind of when we were like, and then literally the day that I sent you the dashboard of this one company, I was like, this is all kinds of messed up and I think we could do better. And Mary's like, let's do it. let's create this. And then so now you see what's happening. And then also even the community aspect of being able to talk with somebody, to be able to have stuff like this, to be able to ask questions in advance. We couldn't find it. I don't know if you guys have been able to find it, but I haven't. There's a couple like Parsley Health, whatever, it's doctors. It's 8,000 a year also. Just ask me how I know. And you know, but these things that weren't working. And so here we are. But also we are not perfect, and it's just the two of us. Well, we have like our health coaches getting onboarded, but Maddy and I are mostly doing this, at least for the next few weeks. So we want suggestions. We actually want you guys to tell us what's not working and what you need.
Yeah, I think what you need it's really important. I mean, these Q&As, they're really designed with the intention of being like, what questions do you guys have about your health? Like, this is an hour for you guys to tell us, like, if we can sit in a room and talk to you, and I mean, especially Julie, all her knowledge, but I mean, all of her biohacking, her personal experience, everything that she's been through, the exercise science, it's so extensive. I have tons of training in functional medicine. I work with patients every day. Like, we want to be able to reach, we're creating this so we can reach more people, so we can help more people. And this hour is really designed, that we're going to be doing once a month, is just to really like answer your questions. What is going on in your world that we can help you with, whether it's through the community, whether it's through this hour, whether it's through lab testing. I think Julie and I have been designing this company. Julie puts this like so well. What does she need is always the question that we're asking about what we're going to innovate next.
Meaning you guys.
Yeah, meaning you
What
guys.
do you need?
Yeah. So we'd love to know. So I think maybe if Julie, if it's okay with you, well, if anyone has any questions right now, open it up to anyone who's. And
I know we're like close to time, but we can stay a little bit longer too, because I want to make sure everyone gets their questions.
And it's okay if we don't.
Hi.
Hi.
I have a question. I'm good. How are you?
I'm great.
Well, yeah.
You.
I have a question and maybe like something for you to like write about, or I don't know, make a course. I mean, I understand obviously it can be like a lot of factors, but I think so with me, I've been like having the consultations with nutritionists for like over a year, and I tried everything that they recommend with like blood work and everything, and I'm still like bloated all the time. Basically, that's the first thing. And the second thing is like energy levels. Like again, I tried everything like food wise to like keep the sugar steady and all that. But my energy is still like very low. I mean, I have like some kind of like jumps of energy like in the morning for a little bit, and then like at night maybe, but like overall it's mostly like me like fighting the sleep. And like it doesn't matter what I eat, how much I eat and all that. So that is interesting kind of to learn about too.
Yeah, of course. If you're not comfortable sharing like on this platform, we can message separately, but are you comfortable sharing what lab work you've done so far?
I don't like, I'm comfortable sharing. I just don't really like remember everything that I've done.
Work?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
So in my experience, typically when people are looking at blood work labs and you're still experiencing issues like bloating and fatigue, and it sounds like energy just no good, like the thyroid's probably involved somehow, your gut's not feeling great, it's going to be something that's beyond blood work
Or celiac.
Yeah, so
I
potentially
had gluten showing up for me, which was causing the bloating, but that showed up in my labs. Who knew?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, maybe I did not do all the labs that would like show that, okay, I have an allergy for gluten, but I did the whole like elimination diet when I like exclude everything and then added a little bit. It doesn't matter. It's like I drink water in the morning and like I already kind of bloated a little bit.
Yeah. So typically this is telling me that so food sensitivities and food allergies are one thing. Typically that's unless it's something actually like celiac, which is like a true allergy. Typically there's something bigger going on underneath the surface that the body's immune system is responding in a way that isn't so beneficial. So where my look, having extensive training in environmental medicine, is to take a look at the overall toxin body burden. What's going on? Do we have heavy metals that we need to work with? Are we experiencing environmental pollutants? It's not something we're currently offering at this time, but actually looking at a stool sample analysis and seeing like what is actually going on in the gut. Because there's only so much you're going to be able to do through diet alone without that information. Often I see people who work with nutritionists, and the blame is kind of like on the food. Like, what can we eliminate? What is causing the reaction? in my experience, not typically the case. Typically
Mm-hmm.
that the body's responding to something else.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at like our panels, you know, getting the heavy metal test, the environmental toxin test, it's going to give you a pretty good idea of what your body's overall toxin body burden is, to see if that's contributing to digestion that just isn't holding up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But you
So
sound like you've done the trial and error for food, so that to me would indicate, because I did that, you know, that was sort of what was happening with me too. And I'm like, well, it's not the food thing, so what is it?
Right.
yeah,
But
Mm-hmm.
even the fasting thing, or for example, Maddie eats every 2 hours. I mean, I'm sort of exaggerating, but
not really.
right. But like, you know, that might be another thing too. I mean, it's unfortunately a lot of it's trial and error unless you run the full labs. I mean, so you know,
Mm-hmm.
back to Maddie's point of me being like the ultimate biohacker is because I had so many struggles with a lot of things, and I was like, what the heck, I'm doing it all right, but I wasn't, right? So then, you know, trying to figure it out. And sometimes everything seems okay, but yeah, the little things that I did that were helping with the bloating were like the fasting thing was actually causing me all sorts of problems. And then even how I was working out, which was doing a lot of like 90-minute walks, you know, or like 90-minute soul cycle, and it's all nice and easy. But I feel, you know, it was actually making things worse. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so now when I do my sprint interval training, I'm not as bloated. I mean, I love my acupuncture picture the other day. I was bloated, but like to be sick in the morning, but you know, whatever. But it's not all the time, right? And it used to be like I looked like I was pregnant, right? Because it was so bloated, right? That kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. So that's can be frustrating, but it might not be the food, it might be something else, or sleeping. I mean, Maddie can go into all of it, but there's so much.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it tends to be
Sucks
a
to
bit.
try everything. I mean, it just does, right? It just sucks to keep trying things and then you still feel awful. So
Yeah. Especially like with food, I feel like it can create some kind of not healthy relationship with food when you like scared to eat
For sure.
everything.
yeah.
Yeah, you're nervous. You're gonna have. I mean, when water's making you react, you feel like, oh my gosh, it's the food. I want to just really encourage you. It's not the food. The food's not the issue. It's something else,
Mm-hmm.
and that something else is fixable.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Good to know. Thank you.
I know we're going to see you on the community. Anything else? Heather, Leslie, anybody? I'm meeting some people for the first time. I've
No,
got
I mean, I'm just really excited to hear about the mattress thing is super
oh,
interesting because I'm like on the cusp of needing a new mattress. And then
yeah,
also the candle thing because Julie, you know, I'm like a
I
diptyque.
know, and I know who you like,
And I
and
love like scents and
yeah.
candles and like my husband and I both. And I'm like, I really need to like really educate myself around this because we have a lot of that going on. So
And
all
also,
of those.
I would say too, because Heather, you know, I tend to have like, you know, pretty high-end taste for things. So a lot of the time, some of this non-toxic stuff is not at the caliber that we're looking for. So I know I got you. So I think even if we do a list of brands we like, we can do sort of a low medium, low medium Julie version.
Yeah. Something like, yeah, that, I mean, it'd just be
But
helpful to
really
like
good.
educate myself around because if I'm like proliferating problems, I don't want to do that. But at the same time, it's a balance between like stress relief and peace and like not contributing to negative things happening, right? So like how do we kind of balance that? So yeah, all of those things will be super
I
interesting.
mean, I feel like it's in my glass. Look, oh, hold on. Oh, I'm gonna show. Hopefully, I didn't Marilyn Monroe, you guys. You know, but we'll do this. But I know Maddie at safe because I look, but like my little labos and stuff. But I mean,
Yeah,
you have to, like,
Pyredo.
you know, you have to look, and even that's not, you know, it's like there's some stuff. It's like a range of things, but at least it's not like Yankee Candle. Not to like call it a brand and like, you know, get a lawsuit or something. But it's really toxic, right? I mean, this is really not good for us, and we already know that. But even your French brands that I know, what you know, the ones that are like nice and in Nordstrom and Neiman, no, they're not even in Nordstrom's. That would be too low end. Like the ones that are in Barney's or Bergdorf. Yeah, those are not. Those are toxic. They're beautiful and they smell nice, but you know what I'm talking about, Maddie, right? Which brand? But it's like, you know, I mean, everything that we've got, I mean, I can go through my medicine cabinet too, and we can go through it. And it's like, I've made some choices that some things aren't 100%, but they do really good stuff. And for like my face or something, or I think they do, like at least. But most of my stuff is like vegan, non-GMO, organic. And I mean, it's like really, like I'm pretty good about that. As Maddie, who can now see all my Instagram accounts, is like, how many pictures of cows are you gonna like? Like,
I know. I always see them on LinkedIn. Oh,
I didn't even do it on LinkedIn because I'm usually a bit more professional, but it's like, oh, this animal testing lab's so sad. But whatever it is. I mean, people are different, but I think that for me, it's like the majority of my stuff tends to be at least that, right? Vegan, cruelty-free, GMO, blah, 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 and also non-toxic, organic, right? So I pretty much go through the list of that, like for my mattresses or whatever. The reason I chose my brand instead of avocado was because of the vegan thing. And, I didn't want wool, even though, but I mean, I think it's good that Maddie and I are a good balance too, because we look at things from a slightly different perspective. So when we combine things like our courses, or even when we were doing the protocols, it was like influenced by both of us. And I think that it made it so much stronger and good. We got to do more videos of like our lunches.
I know we do. I know. I think it is a beautiful thing that
Yeah.
we do. I mean, Julie sees I eat actually quite a bit of animal protein.
Yeah.
And Julie sees me do that because it's what I truly need for my health.
Yeah.
And Julie, like we both just totally respect each other. It's what works best for your own body. And there's a lot of respect there just because we're both honoring what's best for us.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's why you need the personalization. Every one of us is actually different. There's general stuff that we're going to talk about on the boards, but every single person is different. And then as a ending note, and I don't want to keep going super long, but literally the fact that, I was so irritated with doctors would just look at the birth date on my chart and just make assumptions. Right. And that's part of the thing that started making me angry a couple years ago, where I was like, don't make assumptions because everyone's different. Everyone's different. And you could be 35 and experiencing perimenopause, and you can be 55 and not be in menopause. There's a lot of things that make our physiologies different. Yeah. All right. I think we're done. I mean, if there's any other questions, and then I do think, especially the first month that we're doing this, we're probably going to have another Q&A like in another couple weeks, right?
Yeah.
Especially as we're onboarding more people and doing that. And we've had a lot of questions about, more of that and more things like this, and ultimately Maddie's going to quickly stop taking patients.
Yes.
It's
That
a
will
transition.
be happening soon.
Full time doing this.
Yes. Yeah.
That's how fast it went.
I know. Faster. A lot faster than we anticipated. So it's a good problem to have.
It's not a good problem to have. Yeah. Be careful what you wish for, though. No, just kidding. I was so happy and grateful to be doing this. And anybody who's known me for a long time knows that like I'm passionate about this. And I'm really glad that I get to do this every day. Like, if I can just share the knowledge and the things that have helped me and help people live great lives and, balance and their purpose and their dreams and also be healthy, how cool is that? But we're going to be on the community boards every single day. Please, invite, send people links. You can, if you use the community boards, you will get into the ambassador program immediately. It's all hooked up. Great, right? It's all automated. Right? So it's like choosing the right community. And then Maddie and I can be like, oh, it just did it for us. That's so cool. So, and it just like, and you'll get a badge and everything when you start doing things. And we have a fun day tomorrow where we're going to be putting together the meditation journals that people will get when they invite 2 members. So all the fun swag.
This is great. Thank you guys.
Yeah. And Heather, I know if you have suggestions for swag, Heather and I used to work together consulting. She was my client.
I have tons of ideas, so I will pass.
Yeah. And it was and good ideas. with the swag. Never underestimate the swag, how important it is. Fun
Exactly.
stuff with our logo on it for branding so that you guys can walk around with things. Anyway. Okay, good night, everyone.